I think there's really 4 components of precision-guided selling, and it's first off the right people, right process, the right technology, and the right knowledge or actionable insights, as we've been talking about. And I think it's really the integration of those that need to come together. And what we see is that doesn't happen very often. What you have over here is somebody in charge of training, and somebody over here in charge of technology, and somebody over here in HR charged with the people, and somebody else over here signing up for sales intelligence services. And there's all these things out there, and the salesperson is looking for somebody to bring those things together in a cognitive way that I can apply to what I'm doing today. And so what I'd really like to do is just think about having the salesperson where they go in and they take a look at their territories and they're automatically told, within your territory, here are the people who are less likely to buy and here are the people who are more likely to buy. In fact, here are the people who really like to buy. What would that do to get them to focus their time in the right accounts? Yeah. And then you give them the right messages. So you say, here's the right things to get this person to agree to meet with you. It's one thing if you know you want to meet with them, who cares? Why do they want to meet with you? And then as you go all the way through the process, what are we going to do to involve all the people involved in the decision making? We ended up taking a look and asking, across again 1,500 companies, how many decision makers are involved in getting to yes for your product? And the answer came in a little bit north of 4 decision makers. Well, if each one of them has somebody to turn to for influence and input, that's 8. Well, they all got different agendas. Yeah. So it's this whole idea of bringing these things all together where within your company, the answer to every sales challenge you face probably already exists. Yeah. And if you could just go through and at the enterprise level, collect all that insights, synthesize it, put it out there, and then do the 5th thing, which is to analyze it as it's being used so you can go back through and improve it. That's really now where we're bringing science to the art of selling. And that's where you're going to really see your win rates go up, percentage of reps making quota go up. By the way, turnover will go down because sales reps love working in a predictable environment. And there's just so many advantages to doing this. The companies get focused on, it sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it is. But the cost of doing nothing is what's killing your company, not the cost of fixing these problems.
Yeah, you had mentioned that this insight exists in the organization. And so when as we're making precision-guided selling a reality, what I would say is that the first thing is to think differently. Again, we went through this 20-year period of selling as a common language and common process being the big benefit of sales enablement. And then we had this spike in insight. We need to be bringing insight to our customers, which was directionally the right thing to do. The next phase now is this idea that insight is not at a moment in time. It's not one size fits all. It's saying at every phase of the buy-sell cycle, from qualifying to choosing the right customers, to gaining access, to leading the customer decision, to mapping out your value, to negotiating and closing, at every single phase of the sales cycle, salespeople need to be supported with the data and the actionable insight to be able to, again, make better decisions on behalf of their company and lead their customers to make higher decisions. And to make that happen, the most likely place to get that data, it exists in organizations. It's just distributed, and people are not, I think, given the way the market has shifted today, the folks, whether it's, again, marketing, technology, or sales enablement, haven't caught up with the market shift to say, we need to mine that stuff. It exists in our organization. And as you point out, it exists at this moment in time. And tomorrow when a new regulation comes out, or there's some geopolitical shift, or your competitor's value proposition change, it's going to change what we refer to as the core story that moves throughout the entire buy-sell cycle. And so in order to make this thing become a reality, it's sort of less emphasis on the training piece and more emphasis on getting the organization built and thinking about this ecosystem you mentioned earlier. How do I capture these things that are happening real time and have a cross-functional team that understands this has got to get in the hands of salespeople as quickly as possible so we can make these changes. So in order to make it a reality, the training piece is reasonably easy. We build out the insight that tracks with the buy-sell cycle. We can teach people how to use that stuff. To make it become a reality, we've got to get the organization thinking cross-functionally about how they approach marketing, messaging. We look at it this way. If you've got a salesperson, you've got 500 salespersons around the world having 100 conversations a year, it's about 50,000 conversations at multiple phases of the sales cycle. Today, they're making that up. The point you talked about earlier about most training and the tools salespeople are given, are the sort of what they need to be doing. They're making up. So that's 50,000 deposits or withdrawals from brand equity. And so to make precision-guided selling a reality, we've got to have words coming out of people's mouths that are enabling decisions, but more importantly, reinforcing your brand at every level. There's a big push now for cross-channel marketing, right? No matter what sort of social media your customer is landing on, well, we need to start thinking about sales teams as part of that cross-channel marketing and saying, what's the power of having 5,000 salespeople around the world having consistent conversations with your customers about your value proposition, and again, throughout the entire sales cycle. So the organizational component of this is huge.
Well, I think, Brian, too, you bring up something interesting in that you not only have 500 salespeople out there that are doing those types of things, they report to a manager.
Yeah.
The average manager today has managed about 7 or 8 different salespeople, and so we've also got to train the managers to do things differently.
Yeah.
So they've got to be able to understand, how do I coach differently in terms of opportunity coaching, skill development coaching, and if we can get them on board to where every day they're reinforcing, in fact, enforcing precision-guided selling, that's how you're going to make transformation stick. Where it becomes part of, ingrained into not only what the rep does every day, but what the manager does with them every day in terms of the coach and the mentor.
Yeah, and we do know in the past, we did a study with Selling Power magazine about why some sales training stuck, and the number one reason was the sales training was connected to larger corporate strategy. It was an enabler of strategy. The second reason was the coaches coached, and we know that coaches don't coach. And now when you think about this new world with coaching with insight and coaching reps to use insight, you and I have had the discussion about using technology to aid in coaching, because it's no longer enough to have in the new environment, to have a kind of generic coaching class on how do you give positive reinforcement, how do you coach. It's got to be now, how do you weave a story together given the current marketplace, what's happening right now in the marketplace, how are the sales teams weaving a story together at every stage of the sales cycle. That's what the coaching looks like now, and we've found that we've had to build virtual coaching tools to have the questions and the answers sort of pulled through the whole process, because it's such a significant shift in what managers do when they coach versus auditing the checklist. Did you do the process, or are you telling a very compelling story? At this phase of the sales cycle, are you telling a very compelling story? We've got to really enable those managers and those leaders. The definition of insight is a deep, intuitive understanding. And so I think this is one of the big shifts in preparing salespeople today is they can't be reading bullets off a page. And I've heard horror stories about salespeople going in with presentations that someone else built for them, delivering them, and having some PhD in the audience, customer audience, tear them apart. Salespeople and the coaches need to have a deep, intuitive understanding of the insight that they're weaving throughout the sales cycle, and be able to weave that into a core story that's reflective of the organization's brand. It's all really doable, but it's a radically different coaching challenge.